Good afternoon or morning, depending on where you're tuning in from, and welcome to today's webinar covering digital transformation maturity assessments. I want to thank you for attending. My name is Carla Hartman. I'm the VP of Marketing at Resolve Tech Solutions, and I wanted to go over a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We encourage you to ask questions through the chat functionality, and we will answer any that come through at the end of the webinar. But until then, just sit back and take in all the good insights that we have for you today. So this webinar is sponsored by Resolve Tech Solutions, and we aim to be very informative. So this is the only sales type pitch you're going to get, and it's just a little bit about the company if you have not heard of us. We are a mid-sized award-winning consulting firm based in Dallas, Texas, with our headquarters. We also have offices in Houston and Washington, D.C., as well as remote employees throughout the United States. Our offshore team sits in various locations in India, and we have over 25 years of consulting experience with a team of 1,000 plus strong. We have been ranked by SAP several times as one of their #1 partners. We are one of the top 10 fastest growing businesses in the Addison area of Dallas, which just is attributed to our financial growth and stability. And this year we've received many accolades for AI, being a leader in AI. We have an executive that received an award in AI, and we also received the AI Excellence Award from the Business Intelligence Group for hybrid intelligence systems with our Juno Labs product. So we have a lot of great things going on at RTS, and our main focuses are in core business modernization with our ERP systems, digital transformation initiatives, such as what we are covering today. And that also includes some of our AI/ML practice and in cloud services. And as you can see on the bottom of the screen, we are partnered with SAP, AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. The star of the show today is Michael Brown, Director of Architecture and Innovation at Resolve Tech Solutions, and he's going to take you through a comprehensive overview of what challenges manufacturers are currently facing on the technology front and provide you with high-level digital transformation approaches, discuss data platform maturity, and much more. So we hope this will be a valuable experience. And without any further ado, I will pass it over to Michael. Michael, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Carla. Well, again, my name is Michael Brown. I'm the lead architect here at Resolve Tech Solutions. And not only have I spent, I don't know, the last 8 or 9 years in cloud, prior to that, I spent almost 15 years in manufacturing. And so I have a deep passion for helping manufacturers, be able to move through digital transformation and really take advantage of what the cloud and what the edge and industrial IoT have to offer. So the first thing I'll talk about digital transformation, we like to use the word digital transformation maturity assessment. It really just rolls off the tongue. But, one of the first things that I struggle with is, I wonder if maturity is really the word that we need to be using, because there isn't a lot of maturity in digital transformation. It's something that definitely a lot of companies are working for. Some companies, some outliers, companies like Tesla, companies like Amazon are really mature in their digital transformation. They really understand the value of data, and they really understand, how to keep, iterating and moving fast, right? In order to move faster, make things less expensive, have more options, have more capabilities. And the rest of the world is just trying to figure out, how is it that we, really solidly get into digital transformation and start moving. So let's kind of start out with the idea of, what is it? It's not a product. Hear me. It's not a product. It's not something you can buy. It's not a turnkey system that someone can come and install for you. It is not that. It is a strategy. It is something that you decide to do, create a strategy for it, and you wake up and you do every single day. And it's a complete overhaul of how you deliver value today. You may be doing things one way today, and at the end of your first iteration of digital transformation, it might not be all that different, but how you're delivering it with the tools and the technologies and the processes that you're delivering it, it fundamentally changes it so that it can be used and reused and iterated faster. Digital transformation is not just about automation. It's about, really understanding and getting a hold of the data that you already have inside of your organizations and putting it to work. So let's kind of take a step back. And, for those of you who are in manufacturing, this is going to be old hat to you, but we're talking to more people than just, hard manufacturers. So if you work for a manufacturing company and you're in some sort of, part of the company that is not, directly based in, manufacturing operations, let's kind of get into the mindset of what it means to be in manufacturing. And one of the best examples that I have been able to come up with is, the idea of if you yourself had a money printing machine and it was legal and you totally had the ability to use it. But the idea was you've got to keep this thing running. And so if you just take that, no matter how complex the manufacturing environment is, I don't care if it's life sciences, I don't care if it's mining, I don't care if it's, semiconductors, whatever the complexity of that process, just equate it to a money printing machine. And so when that process is running effectively, it's in production. And so what's interesting is if you think of manufacturing in that way, you can ask yourself almost any question and you'll get a very similar answer as to what a manufacturer would answer if you ask the same question. And so, for example, if you had this money printing machine, one of the first questions is, hey, when do you want to turn it off? Do you want to turn it off? Right? So you start realizing, well, if I turn it off, I'm not making money. Aha. So, that's the first question. Would you ever want to run that money machine slower? Right? Would you want to slow it down for any reason? Probably not. What about if you're printing the money, is the money I'm printing, can I spend it? Or is it not a good quality enough, right? It doesn't look right. It's not correct. So I can't spend it, right? So quality is going to matter. Does the money that I produce, is the money that I'm printing, does it cost more to produce it than I'm printing? Like I don't have to figure that out. Can I make it faster? Can I make more of it? Where is the money that I produced, right? Where should I store it? Do I store it in banks? Do I store it in different areas? Right? Distribution and supply chain. And most importantly is, where do I want to invest in the future? Right? Do I want to continue working on this machine? Do I want to build more machines? Or do I want to go and buy servers, right? Or buy buildings, right? Where you invest is critical to manufacturing. And so when you kind of get that in your mind, let's kind of dive just a little bit deeper and talk about some of the challenges that manufacturers in particular face. And what's really interesting about this technology stack that we're going to talk about is, really from the historian down, right? When you're looking at this, it's pretty much uniform across all manufacturing and industry. Your historian, SCADA, PLC, HMI, machines and sensors, obviously different types of machines. But this stack is pretty much uniform from the historian down. At the MES layer and at the ERP layer up, you'll get variation between industries. But it's the same pattern that we've been doing for going on 40 years now. So, when we build these technology stacks in order to enable our manufacturing, the first thing that we end up in doing is we start building integrations. And these are one-to-one integrations that create A, capability, but B, it's something we have to maintain and something we have to continue to support over time, which is technical debt. Right. So when we build we take the machines and we build them into PLCs and HMIs, we build integration there, and we build PLCs and HMIs into SCADA platforms to get more people involved. We bring the sensors directly into the SCADA. We wire everything into a historian. We got a lot of integration going on there. We wire all of that up into the manufacturing execution system and platform. And then the MES gets wired into the ERP. Right. And so when we look at this one-to-one integration really starts increasing technical debt and starts slowing us down over time. This could just be one machine. This could just be one part of a line. When you really kind of break it out and go further, it gets more complicated. So you're looking at, okay, we've got a lot of integration and a lot of technical debt. There are many systems integrators that make a living off of just this set of integrations, right? Just maintaining it, just updating it. doing the software patching, doing the updates to the latest version. It's really gets complex in real life, right? And that's, when you look at the enterprise, it gets really complicated. And this is what we're dealing with in manufacturing, and why digital transformation sometimes becomes so difficult to even know where to start to approach, right? You want to start looking at, a lot of times we look at our best of breed software providers or our manufacturing and industrial software providers and focus on, well, do you have something that can do digital transformation? And, we're really just looking for a fix, when in fact, there is no magic, right? If we want to be able to go from the traditional technology stack into a new modern, ecosystem, it's going to require a different way of thinking. If we want to be able to build a decoupled, event-driven architecture for the plant floor, so that we can have new innovations and new strategies and transformation faster, you've got to do it differently, right? And what we'll talk about is a little bit what that looks like, and a couple more challenges that we end up having to have. So if you're kind of on the left hand side, and everybody really wants to get more towards the right hand side so they can be more nimble and more agile, and have more collaboration on the data, and be able to take data that's coming out of the factory and coming out of customer and coming out of inventories, and be able to use that in real time. It's a transition, right? It's not a big bang. Another thing I'll say is there's no magic in this process. When we mentioned earlier that it's a strategy, not a product, it's also, there's no magic. You wake up every day and you do this, right? Once you have your strategy, once you have your architecture, once you have your framework and your guidelines, you just start picking the next project, and you innovate and make it more efficient, and you add that to the stack, right? And you do this across all areas of your organization to digitally transform. One of the examples that I tell clients is, one of the areas that you can definitely look at for digital transformation, one of the low-hanging fruit, if you will, is if your organization uses lots and lots of Excel spreadsheets, complicated Excel spreadsheets, for example. You've got maybe like a power user or somebody who is really knowledgeable. They're using an Excel spreadsheet to pull data from different systems, put it into the spreadsheet so that other people can collaborate on it, right? If you've got a solution like that, most companies do, you can automate that, right? Just the simple fact of automating that exact spreadsheet into a fully automated data pipeline, pulling the data, putting it into the platform, and making it visible to everyone who needs to use it in real time. If you do that 2 or 3 or 4 times across your organization, you're doing digital transformation, right? You're fundamentally transforming the way people that use data. Let's jump back into it for a second. So as we transition through this, it takes a new set of skills. It takes a new way to approach it, and we have to do it in bite-sized chunks, right? The digital transformation as an idea will last from the day you start until the day that the company no longer exists or is sold, right? But in that, there is no 2, 3, 5, 8-year projects, right? You're really just building a series in either sequentially or in parallel, 8 to 12-week projects. No more than 6 months at a time, right? You got to break them into small bite-sized chunks so that you can build, get results, innovate, iterate, and then do it again. Super important. So another thing that makes this a little bit interesting is, working with OT and IT, right? We've had this conversation for a long time. And between OT and IT, if we take the confidentiality, integrity, availability triad, which is something that IT looks at, and confidentiality means that our systems have to be impenetrable. They have to be private. They have to be controlled, right? Access has to be controlled. Integrity means they have to be up. They have to be running. They have to be operating correctly. Like if I deploy a known good system and I maintain a known good system, then my system is in good state, right? That's integrity. And then availability means my system is available to run, right? It's not its performance is good, its operational attributes are good, things are working as they're supposed to. IT is super focused on confidentiality, right? We don't want data breaches. We don't want ransomware attacks. We want to be able to control the access to the data into the corporate plant or the corporate network, and be able to make sure that our infrastructure is safe and sound. Integrity is super important, that system is doing what it's supposed to do, and then availability is very important to IT as well, but it's less so than the people who run the money printing machine. So in operation technology, availability of the money printing machine or the production process is the most important, right? Integrity is the same. It has the systems, even if they're available but they're not operating, that's useless as well. So integrity is important, and confidentiality is also important to operations technology, but it's less important than availability, right? As long as we're making the product, then we're making revenue for the company or product for the company. So this is where we kind of diverge, right? Where IT and OT start having friction. And what's even more interesting is in OT, when we look at the OT stack, IT owns a large portion, right? So like if we look at the infrastructure, IT owns most of the infrastructure. Really, the only infrastructure that IT might not own is going to be the PLCs and the equipment, possibly industrial servers provided by third-party OEMs. Those types of things will be on the plant floor or in cabinets. But IT owns most of that, right? Anything that the engineers need, they're going to request that from IT and be able to be budgeted for it. The apps and the data, it's going to be a little bit mixed on that, right? So, whether it's, Aviva, Historian, or Pi, or a lot of the other tool sets that traditional manufacturing use, that's going to be shared between IT and OT. Obviously, the operating systems and Office 365 and, Google Workspace, all that kind of stuff is going to be controlled by IT, but then OT is going to have a lot more say in the types of applications that are being used. The OT network, again, the infrastructure level is going to be super controlled by IT in a lot of ways, and then OT is going to have a lot of say over the control of it. And then plant connectivity, again, mostly IT, right? Any kind of network access, perimeter access, controls, all that's going to happen outside of the OT's control. So when you look at this, when you look at when you look at collaboration like this, these organizations have to collaborate. And that's one of the first challenges that we address when we're talking about digital transformation. All right. So let's take a look at this. So what does that look like in general? You have you have like the organic, mixture of technologies that we have, the technical debt that we have, right? And we really want to move it to a unified namespace, right? Or a unified platform, a single truth for everyone, like the technology stack, so that everybody has access to the data. The data is in real time. The data is updated in real time, so people can act, right? If we think back to IT 101, we want the right information to the right person at the right time in the right context so they can act. And the idea is to be able to transform our strategy and our infrastructure and our guidelines to be able to enable this. Now, what does that look like? You can't, it's not everything all at once. We start with one project, right? We take, for example, we might take product data out of the ERP. We might take manufacturing and inventory data out of the MES, and we build a dashboard, right? Some sort of update dashboard, for the executives and for the plant maintenance and plant engineering. We make that and we publish that into the namespace. That becomes accessible. Then the next product is, we build another dashboard for another set of teams. And we publish that to the namespace. And again, we come out of another couple of systems. Maybe you come out of scheduling and asset management for scheduling, and then we publish that into the namespace. The idea here is we only want to publish data into the namespace that is usable, right? That helps to solve problems. That way we don't end up creating, a data swamp, right? Which is like a data lake, but it's a stinky place that no one wants to live. The idea is we want to build a place to where people can go and get real-time information and publish real-time information into a namespace that allows manufacturing to iterate and evolve. So RTS does this using a a process called the Digital Transformation Maturity Assessment. We work with OT integrators to help gather all the information and to help work with you on this. And it starts out with, we have a questionnaire, a guided questionnaire that we give to the organization. We schedule a kickoff meeting. Usually that works along with maybe doing a plant tour or a process tour with the client. And we go through and we do that. And we sit down with a kickoff meeting, and we use the kickoff meeting and the questionnaire that the customer has already filled out to walk through a guided discovery. And that guided discovery leads, once we get finished with that, then we understand who all the principals are and the different towers and the different areas of the business. And then we use that to schedule virtual breakout sessions. If we can do it on site, we'd love to, but a lot of times we want to be able to work with the clients and not be as, not use their time as, or use their time as efficiently as possible. So we'll set up virtual breakout sessions with the leadership team, IT, operations, manufacturing operations and maintenance, engineering, plant engineering, corporate engineering, and then, quality, right? These are the minimums. We take the feedback from these teams, and we have guided discovery that we work with these teams also. We work through this. That turns into, an assessment score, right? So we score everyone in each area between 1 and 5, and we're able to compare that with industry standards or a lot of other DTMA assessments that have been taking place. So the scoring happens there. And then that feeds into the assessment document. So into the assessment document, we put your current technology investments and architecture, that's in place today, the short and long-term business goals and short and long-term operations goals, challenges, that your teams are facing, right? And we put all those session summaries into that document. And then the outputs of that, we're going to create a recommended POC, right? Maybe it might be a couple of proof of concepts, proof of technology, be like, here's some areas that we found that are low-hanging fruit, right? And we'll be able to walk you through how to do that. We'll have a recommended architecture, right? The technology stacks, what we can reuse from within your organization, and what we'll need to add. We'll talk about the solution on how we would approach that and how we would do that ourselves. Give you those final steps and then a final summary, right? So at the end of this digital transformation maturity assessment, you should have, a document that goes through all of your different areas of your business, understands where the investments have been made, understands where the technology debt has been made, understands what your people are challenged with the process, and we give you the the next steps on how do we start iterating out of this, right? And once you launch that POC, like I said earlier, we want to do 8 to 12 weeks, right? We don't want to spend, a year, 9 months on something like this. In 9 months, honestly, we should have been able to do this 2 or 3 times, and each time adding value to the company, right? It's like a flywheel. So the POC happens. We do the POC for 8 to 12 weeks. We get findings and results. That goes into production. Then we take that, we iterate, go to the next thing, do the next POC, right? This is something we just continue to do. And the reason we talk about POCs is, a POC, once, as you get into a POC, you're going to find different results. And I'll give you for example. We were working with a food processor, and they had these finishing machines that would literally pulverize the food, the tomatoes at this location. And we had initially done the POC to start the process of talking about doing predictive maintenance on these finishing machines. There were multiple vendors of finishing machines. They had multiple setups on the finishing machines. And when we started the POC, what we found out is we didn't really have the appropriate data collected or the correct data collected to be able to actually do predictive maintenance, right? But something that we did find in that POC was we were able to, there was some kind of like tribally known knowledge. Well, if machine 2 has this size filter in it, or machine 4 has this size filter in it, it kind of does this, right? There was some tribal knowledge that was going on, but we were able to collect the data that showed it, right? So we were able to put data behind what mature operators already understood. And now they understood why. They knew why. So we could start eliminating configurations and setups that were not efficient. Now we knew. So whereas we started the POC, our results and findings did not lead to predictive maintenance, right? We were missing some components for that, but we were able to find more efficient setups and more efficient configurations of the machines. So that's why we call it a POC, and it's not a project, right? You don't put your ROI and your general KPIs on something like that and go, we have to do predictive analytics because we found something new that was valuable to the company. We were able to put it in production, increment, and then iterate again. Does that make sense? So let's kind of take another kind of pass through it. I'm going to put another context on it. So you've got the DTMA. We can put some context on what that process looks like across the whole of the organization. So I love, lean is, when you talk about lean and you talk about, constant never ending improvement, we're talking about incremental improvement, right? But I love some of the vocabulary in it, and it really can help, in a digital transformation, especially trying to get context around where we want to focus and spend our time. So in Japanese, gemba means, the actual place, where value is created. And the definition is, a gemba walk, on the other hand, is, the idea of going to the actual place where value is created so you can empirically see and understand the process, right? It comes from Toya TPS, and is used a lot in lean. And so one of the things I like to focus on my IT professionals colleagues is that, OT professionals are focused on building and creating and managing value. Like literally, it's where the value is created. And so that's their context, is they're focused on building value. And the best place to go to understand that is the plant floor, is the process floor. And so the walk is this idea of walking through the organization. This is what we do in the DTMA. We're walking through the organization physically where we can, and virtually everywhere else, to understand where value is created and where the constraints on the creation of value are happening, right? And we use this methodology to kind of look at the manufacturing platform. So for example, here's a generic manufacturing process. And so at the top, we start with marketing sales, right? We have to sell something. And then the engineering design, they have products they design. The next step is, we've got products and we sell those products. Manufacturing first starts with a plan to make those products. And then they execute the manufacture of those products. And then they move that into the supply chain, whether that's just initial delivery of products as well as parts and services. And the business operations, handles all the transactions and the revenue recognition and warranty work, et cetera. So if we take that and we kind of come down into a technology side, we sell something, we're worried about customer experience. Designing and engineering, we're worried about the technology to help with design and engineering. We're worried about the technology with operations and operations management and planning for manufacturing, store and distribute and service, supply chain, service and maintenance and parts, as well as the business operations. And we break that down into even further, right? We can talk about the technology applications. So, for selling, that's going to be your CRM, possibly your ERP, PLM and CAD platform. For engineering and design, could be could be other quality systems for engineering design. When you plan to make, that's going to be enterprise ERP platform and your MES platform, right? When you do the inventory and your parts and your BOMs, all that comes into there. It comes out from the CRP into ERP. And then when you execute the manufacture, that goes into your MES. And so you can see that stack, that traditional stack is there. MES, historian, SCADA, PLC, quality, all of that comes into the MES platform. And that goes into your warehouse management, supply chain platform, EDI, and then that goes into finance and business operations. Now, something important here is IT and security supports a little bit of this or supports all of this a little bit in every area, right? How we talked about. And the goal of this, and the goal of walking through this is we want to help understand, as everybody wants to get to machine learning and predictive capabilities, but it really starts with visibility, right? So we have to get the data. We have to understand how to build platforms and systems to get the data into a visible state. We have to make the data visible. We have to break down the dot silos. We have to aggregate the data into a platform that a unified namespace that allows it to be able to be shared with both internal information systems as well as like data lakes, like in the cloud, data warehouses, right? We want to make it so that it's something that's consumable and everybody becomes a node on the namespace, right? Another important part of that process is putting context on that data so that when people look at it, they know exactly what it means, exactly where it's coming from, and understand in real time what that data means. And then and only then can we start working on the analytics and the machine learning that add true value or additional value to the platforms that you currently have. So one of the main things that we look at, traditionally, there's been OT and IT, right? I think we have to move beyond that. We really have to get to not just IT, not just OT, but just a technology partner, right? A unified technology partner. When we look at this stack as before, a lot of the complexity that I have seen in my career going through these types of transformations is, when I was working at a cloud vendor, we would come in and talk about all the amazing capabilities of the cloud, but what we'd find is the customers would be like, that sounds fantastic. How do we do it? And then we would have to, they would go to their OT integrator that didn't have possibly the capabilities that were necessary, or they only knew this part of the process or this part of the platform. And then an IT integrator would have to come in, and then the customer was left to manage both of these partners, right? So the idea is we definitely want to make that simpler, right? And RTS does that through their industrial managed services group. And what we do here is we actually have already partnered with multiple technology systems integrators across the U.S. and Europe. And we come to you with a single contract, a single SOW, a single project team, right? That plant floor to executive suite, we're able to manage, the traditional technologies of the plant floor, traditional, all the industrial software OEMs, be able to handle all of that, all the way up to and including cybersecurity, cloud, and then deploy. And we truly understand what is deployed at the edge, what's deployed on-prem, what can be deployed in cloud, and help you navigate that with your IT and security and your leadership teams. So as the last thing is, with the goal of being, having that unified, single partner that can help you, right? Really appreciate all of your time today. Wanted to try to get through this as quickly as possible. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to hit the chat and we'll answer them. If not, really appreciate your time today. Thank you.